Well, hello. As I'm sure you know, I have a bit of an interest in conspiracy theories, and I look at quite a lot of stuff on YouTube and on the internet about what's going on in the world of conspiracy theories. One of the channels I look at is Miles Johnston's channel. Not that I think that I glean anything from it, but it's bloody funny to watch. It's a perpetual procession of nutcases and frauds, really. I mean, this is John Lear. Well, I think he's got something to do with the Lear, you know, the private jet company. I don't know whether he owns it or I believe he's a pilot. I was going to say that, you know, he's probably getting senile and saying all this stuff, but I think he's been saying it for many years. So I think he's just plain old crazy. But listen to what Mr. Lear has to say about the moon.
We had ironclad proof that there was not only a breathable atmosphere on the moon, but the gravity was not 1/6 as NASA tells you. It's 68.71% of the Earth. There's 250 million people that live up there. They have all kinds.
There's 250 million people that live on the moon. Okay, this is what he's saying. There's 250 million people live on the moon. This is why I look at this channel. It's always good for a laugh over a coffee.
All kinds of high-tech stuff, and everybody says, "Well, didn't our astronauts see it in the 70s?" And I have to tell them that was all a fake. There wasn't a shred of truth to any of that NASA stuff. Nobody's been any higher than the Van Allen belt, which is about 500 feet or 500 miles altitude.
So the NASA moon landings were all a fake. No one's been higher than the Van Allen belt, about 500 miles up. Yet there's 250 million people living on the moon. Now, Miles, being a razor-sharp investigator, of course, fails to pull him up on this. Oh dear. So there's 250 million people living on the moon. Yet we couldn't get. There were six moon missions, weren't there, from 1969 to 1971 or 1972, I think. 11, 12, 13 didn't make it. 14, 15, 16, and 17. So that's 6 missions, 2 people per mission. So we couldn't put 12 people on the moon. It's all a fake. Yet there's 250 million people living on living on the moon.
The whole thing was a fake. All the astronauts were, they used super mind control and made them actually believe they went to the moon. But nobody went there. Nobody could have gone there because, number one, they didn't have enough fuel. Wernher von Braun told us to have enough fuel to go to the moon, you would have to have a rocket that was high as the Empire State Building. And, of course...
So to get 2 people to the moon, you would need a rocket bigger than the Empire State Building. So what did they actually use to get the 250 million people up there, John?
We didn't match that. And not only that, the Saturn V that we supposedly used was never operable. They never got it to work. So what they did in the Apollo missions is they used a Saturn 4B and dressed it up to look like a Saturn V. Now, if anybody disputes that, all you have to do, there's 200 private videos of any Apollo launch.
Just to cut and pick a minute there. You need to be invited to view private videos, don't you moron?
Launch taking off, you just find me one where there's a second stage firing. But you can't because there is no one. They only fired a first stage, and then they took all the cameras away. And
I think there is actually video of the second stage firing. I'm pretty sure I've seen the second stage firing, and that the collar that covered the motors on the second stage. If you look at a Saturn V, there's you've got the first stage with the 5 big motors on it. Second stage has got 5 smaller motors on it. Between the 2 stages, there's a sort of metal cylindrical collar. And when you fire the second stage, that cylindrical collar flows away and it tumbles off. And of course, there's no footage from Earth because this happens in space. I can't remember if they're actually in orbit at that point or whether they're accelerating into the orbit, but when you see that, they're definitely in space. You wouldn't be able to film that from the ground.
Never showed anybody more about it. There was never any astronauts on it. It never went anywhere. I believe the Russians gave us one of those first stage back as a kind of a joke, saying, "We know what you did."
So it's all. I mean, this is interesting.
Yeah. So it's this is just well, it's just hilarious. It's hilarious garbage. The guy in one breath is saying there's 250 million people living on the moon, and in the next breath he's saying we couldn't put a dozen guys on the moon back in the late 60s and early 70s. He's a nutcase. Okay, well I might leave that one there. That's John Lear on the Miles Johnston channel. Let's see how long it takes for Miles to come across this and start jumping up and down. Might be a copyright problem, but it's not monetized. I'm not trying to make money out of it. I'm just trying to show how ridiculous this some of the stuff on this channel is. In fact, most of it is. I might do another couple of clips as individual clips, or I might do a couple of clips and just join them to this. I'll see how I feel. If this is an individual clip, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. And if it isn't, more fun from Miles Johnston's channel coming up. Well, here we are again. This is either a standalone video or a continuation of the previous one. Sorry, I'm just eating some almonds. Some quite appropriate, really. Some nuts. Okay, here's another clip from Miles Johnston's channel. Now, this is a middle-aged woman that's been abducted by aliens to defuse bombs in another dimension.
So, just really weird, glittery kind of material, like really thin, like lycra kind of stuff, and different colours. And I knew I had to get onto these different levels and different clothes for the different levels. And what I was doing was, I don't know how I should say it, I was searching out terrorists and defusing things. That was what I had to do. I was searching out, that was what I was doing.
This is very important. This is sort of psychic warfare in the astral type.
I was diffusing bombs that had already been planted.
Other so-called super soldiers, which we all know we don't really like that term, are being told they're operating in another dimension. It's some kind of dimensional war.
I was doing that there, but it was for Earth, if that makes sense. I was doing it for Earth. So whatever, I had all these levels. I had to search out where the bombs were and defuse them and make them not work. And
what sort of bombs?
They were explosions that would have happened here on Earth.
What sort of bombs? So the aliens have abducted this middle-aged woman that obviously has no technical training whatsoever, and certainly not with any kind of munitions. And they've transported her off planet to defuse these bombs. She's saving Earth, basically. Now, these are aliens that have the technology to fly around the galaxy on a willy-nilly basis. So you might think that they might have 1 or 2 technical experts that will be quite capable of defusing bombs. Well, they would need a middle-aged woman that is obviously completely clueless, is beyond me. Now, she doesn't say, well, it was C4 or sticks of dynamite. It was a plastic type bomb. It was a liquid type explosive. It was a nuclear type weapon. which is what Miles is asking her, and her response is just completely ridiculous.
Terrorist explosions, I think they were. I feel that's
So
what I...
sort of psychic bombs or energy
No,
bombs?
these were real bombs. And it was probably the ones that...
So at least he's asking her what sort of bombs, but he lets it go. He lets it go.
don't go off, you know, well, if that had gone off, it would have killed so many people, like the one on the London train and those kind of things. So I thought it might be something like that. But I don't really have any information on that. That's all I remember.
If it had gone off, you wouldn't have been damaged.
Oh, well, I wouldn't.
Well, yeah, so like the London bomb. So she didn't even say, you know, it was a sort of backpack bomb. Was it in a vehicle? It's just absolute bloody rubbish, isn't it? Obvious. She's completely clueless.
Being in that place, but I wasn't there. But other people would be killed. Well, that's what.
Well, how would you defuse a bomb if you?
I honestly don't know. That's all I know.
So she's got no idea how she diffused it, you know. So she didn't cut the red wire, she didn't cut the blue wire, she didn't take the battery out, she didn't stick a bit of cardboard between a couple of relay contacts, she didn't pull the detonator out, she didn't jam up the mechanism with a pen, you know. She didn't. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. She doesn't know what sort of bomb it was, or, you know, this is just, you know, this would insult the intelligence of a cheese sandwich. It really would. This is just beyond garbage, really, isn't it?
So I had these clothes and I had to go onto these different levels in this weird place and find where these bombs were and defuse them. And that's the first time I've ever really had...
Well, ask her to describe one of these bombs, Miles. Physically describe one.
Information on the job that I had to do, if that makes sense. It was so weird. It was so weird. But it wasn't a horrible experience.
Did you see anybody else?
I didn't see a soul.
Yeah. This is just I don't know, attention seeking or something. I think it's obviously absolute rubbish. But again, you know, it's good for a chuckle. Okay, well, I might have another look and see if I can find another clip to add to this. This may be a standalone, I'm not sure. Regardless, thanks for watching, and I'll either catch you next time, or this will lead into the next clip. Okay, here we have another nutter. Again, this is on the Miles Johnston channel. Now this is Peter Paget. He's been around in the UFO business, and it is a business, believe me. This is all cash for bullshit, all this stuff. Now Peter Paget. Actually, I'll just play a bit of Peter Paget telling us on Miles Johnston's channel that he's not completely human.
My remit in the extraterrestrial sense of the word, because I'm a hybrid, I am 50.8% palladium and 49.2% Homo sapien, which gives advantages and disadvantages.
So he's just a little bit more alien than he is human. Now, at the beginning of this video, he starts to introduce himself and saying that basically he's been in the service of Her Majesty, and you know, he's worked for the security services, and can't say too much about it, of course. But what I think is really funny about this is that many years ago, Paget and his wife used to run a bed and breakfast guest house in Warminster in Wiltshire for UFO researchers. It was called Star House. I stayed there on a couple of occasions, maybe more, I can't remember now, but I do remember on one particular occasion, because I was a young fella and I had a brand new dark blue car that was equipped with two-way radio, which was a bit unusual in those days. He thought I was a member of the security services that had been sent there to spy on him. Now, if he was anything to do with the security services, he would have known that I wasn't. He's just another wannabe nut, I'm afraid, Peter Paget. I found an article about him fraudulently claiming a number of social security. He invented a lot of people, basically, and he was claiming social security in these names he'd made up, and then claimed that he was a spook and he had to make these legends up so that he could do his job. Well, I think it's highly unlikely that the Secret Service would let someone make up a lot of names and then fraudulently claim social security benefits. And anyway, it's just another just another nut in a long line of long procession of nutters. Again, quite funny. Reasonably entertaining, but absolute rubbish. You can put a line through Peter Paget. It's just not worth listening to. I might leave a link below actually to the Peter Paget fraud stuff. And again, this may be the end of the video, and if it is, thanks for watching, and if it isn't, this will lead into the next clip. Thanks for watching.